Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
This is Ed Cohen, and I'm in San Diego, California, and you're on Global TV Talk Show. This is a new broadcast we're going to call Relocation TV Talk Show, and it's going to be the start of a series of interview programs from around the country, but we'll get to that at another time. Our very special guests today are involved with the Relocation Directors Council, RDC, long-standing professional of ultimate quality. And there you see their RDC headline, Relocation Directors Council, and the website, relocationdirectorscouncil.org. And that is publicly available, isn't it, Anne?
Yes, it is. So
Okay.
you just go to relocationdirectorcouncil.org to get any additional information of our organization.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, let's go back to gallery view. And I want to introduce the president, Chuck Garrett from Corcoran Pacific, and that's in beautiful Honolulu. So Joanne and I were there during the month of December. We stayed in our condo in Kahana on Maui and just loved it. And I was up every day at 6:30 because it was already 12 o'clock in New York. So Chuck, welcome. Thanks for getting up early, but you're probably used to it, right?
Yes, Ed, thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
Great. Tell us about yourself real quick, and then let's get into RDC.
So I have been involved in real estate from a young age in my 20s in 1988 here in Hawaii, and been involved in sort of a number of brokerage, management, sales, and then more recently relocation aspects of real estate here in Hawaii.
So the relocation into Hawaii, that's real different than if you're relocating to LA.
Yes, it's there's back in the day they used to ask if they needed a different an adapter for electricity and things like that, but of course we are still part of the US, but there's definitely a culture shock, I think, much more than maybe some other areas.
Very quickly about Corcoran, it's not a new name. That name has been around in real estate, professional real estate at the top level for a long time. So Corcoran is now what, a franchisor?
Yes, in late 2019, Realogy decided to franchise this brand they had purchased from Barbara Corcoran in 2001, and then in most of 2020, and then in 2021, that franchise has been growing, fastest growing franchise in Realogy history, even in the middle of a pandemic. And so we were very happy to be Hawaii's affiliate for just about a year now.
That's really wonderful. Also, board member Ann Anderson from the greater Boston area, leading edge real estate. Ann, thank you so much for your guidance and your forbearance getting me involved.
Well, thanks for having us, Ed.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have dialogued with you. And so, Chuck, let's get back to RDC. Tell us about the history and about the nature of it. Relocation Directors Council. Now, these are not your everyday realtor, right?
No, and it's it's often the case that the relocation director many times is the sole person in charge of relocation in an otherwise sales organization or residential brokerage, and so in some markets and in some operations there can be a team of 8 to 10 relocation directors, but oftentimes it is just that single person, and so the need for camaraderie and community was always there. And late in 1979, an idea was born to create the Relocation Directors Council, and 19 of our founders met at the very next WERC meeting and to lay the groundwork. And here we are 41 years later.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. So how many members are there today?
There are 280 members today, and I think we cover all 44 states. I like to say there's no tribe that I am prouder to be a part of. It's just a really great organization.
Okay, now a lot of the real estate industry is sort of represented on your leadership and of course in your membership. So you have realtors who are members of different groups, right?
Yeah, we certainly cross all of the Realty brands, Berkshire Hathaway, and then home services, independent companies, and then leading RE network members, Cardis network members. It's quite a diverse group.
Oh, this is great. Ann Anderson, would you tell us about the membership qualifications? Because not everybody can be a member, right?
No, not everybody can be a member. In order to be a member, you have to meet certain criteria. So for a person to be considered, and you have to submit an application, you have had to have had 2 out of the past 4 years as a full-time employee in the position of relocation director or managing the real estate division for a residential real estate company. You also need to hold your SCRP, CRP, SGMS, GMS designations, and also you have to have been either a full-time member for a year, holding the position of management within relocation, again, a salaried person, an employee of the residential real estate company. We have broker owners too, who have that responsibility of developing their relocation divisions and running those departments. So they would qualify as well. Or somebody who is in senior management. So, for example, a vice president of the relocation division, and who has been in that position for a minimum of 2 out of the last 4 years. We also, a few years back, added another membership program, and it's our apprentice membership program. And the qualifications for that is you have had to be in your position in management as a salaried employee for a real estate company for 6 months, and 75% of your job is relocation business. But there's limitations to certain benefits that they receive and can participate in. For example, they're not able to vote, with the rest of the members on certain things. And they aren't eligible to serve on our board of directors either. But to join, what we ask the members to commit to is to participate in the meetings, participate in all the functions that we have, including the meetings and any of the other networking events that we participate in, volunteer. And then also, if they decide they're interested in running for the board, to put that out there as well.
Great, thank you. And this is a picture of the current board of directors, and you could see the diversity there. And Chuck, let me get back to you, if I may, about partnership with ERC. Would you like to address that? That's a special thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always been a natural fit from the beginning. As Ann mentioned, our members are required to have earned one of 2 designations, the CRP or the GMS, which are WERC designations. And then we plan both our spring and our fall meeting are timed at the same week and the same location as WERC's spring and fall events. And so we benefit greatly from the time we spend as relocation directors, prior to the meeting, but also the interaction with WERC provides us access to relocation appraisers and mobility service companies and relocation management companies, and really, the pulse of what's happening in the industry.
Well, I think it's really a cool thing. When I first started a long time ago as a publisher doing magazines, relocation guides like California Bound or New York Bound, realtors were a major part of ERC back then. And this was, God, I'm going to date myself, but it would be like 1979, 1980. And now they're back. Realtors are back, and RDC is running that. And that is really terrific. So RDC's role within the relocation industry is full circle. It's right in front right now. And I believe where it belongs, because in my view, as an outsider but looking in and connected, it's where the rubber meets the road. You take care of the people and you make it happen, because if mama ain't happy, no one's going to be happy as it relates to the relocation. So Chuck, we've talked about RDC mission objectives, but I'd like you to review that one more time, because we're talking a lot here and I want the audience to really get it.
Yeah, so, and I'm actually going to read them there. We spent a lot of time working on them, and so I'll just tell you that
Sure.
It's to encourage the personal and professional growth of our members, to foster a continuing education in relocation, to organize a communication network for relocation directors. As I mentioned, they're far flung and often small groups in their own company. And then to promote a high ethical and professional conduct among its members. We do consider ourselves to be, a highly skilled and professional group, and then to exert a positive and beneficial influence on the relocation industry.
So the COVID has impacted me, impacted everybody. Thankfully, the vaccinations work and we've been healthy. But how did RDC pivot as a result of COVID?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ed. You know what? You would have thought we were planning in advance. About 5 years ago, we started to move sort of digitally and online. We discontinued a paper directory in favor of the online directory. We began producing webinar content, and we were in the planning stages. We have a certification called the GDS, Global Destination Specialist, and that was a instructor-led in-person course that we had already been planning to move online into a learning management system. And so all of that preparation pre-COVID helped us to pivot. And we actually then we've been holding, instead of our in-person meetings in fall and spring, holding virtual meetings in their place. And we've actually had more members been able to access that content and education. And I think it's given us some thoughts about making sure that we approach, I guess, the future in a hybrid manner, that we don't forget about that some folks, may not be able to attend every meeting, but can still log in and participate.
Right, and so the technology aspects, that's what you're talking about now, but would you like to get into tech a little bit more in communications or managing the process?
Yeah, it's probably, for us, we did sort of take a leap forward, which may seem standard for others, but as I said, just having the online directory be the premier directory versus paper. And then we used to have each member report in about their market, but a few years ago, we partnered with a company called Terradatum, who provides online, automatic, just-in-time or a real-time market data for the top 100 US markets, which is very helpful for our members.
Yeah,
and
I've seen it.
Folks visiting the site.
Right up to snuff.
And then we're just about to launch then our very first online module 1 of the GDS. And that's going to be part of a learning management system. It's kind of like a continuing education course where you log in and your time is tracked, and you can take it at your own pace.
So Chuck, in terms of people development within within RDC. Of course, it gets down to the local broker community, but it's you're a people business, right? And dealing with emotions, family needs, and of course the needs of the corporate, or the RMC, but it's the people, it's people power.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the number one product that RDC produces is lifetime friendships, believe it or not. Our members count on each other in so many ways. It was once said that in real estate, right, there's a cooperating broker. Real estate is the one industry where one needs their competitor in order to get to the finish line. And the same is true in relocation. We not only need each other for education and mentoring, but we need each other for referrals and business. And we also need to take care of the business we receive. As you mentioned, we're the ones putting the transferees in the cars, showing the homes. And so it's quite a cooperative group.
Yeah, Ann Anderson, about the advisory council, and also about the idea of why do you need a relocation director and realtors? So let's go back to advisory council.
Sure.
and developing agents or people coming into the real estate business through the relocation department who may not be agents yet.
Mm-hmm. As far as the advisory council, the RDC sometime back decided to establish these advisory groups. So we have an advisory group for corporate, and we have an advisory group for RMCs. And in 2020, we added another, which is our referral partners. It is the members who recommend folks from either corporate RMCs or the referral partners, and then they serve a term of 2 years. And I have to tell you, the RMC people, they hate to roll off that board. They just love it. They really embrace us, I have to say. And so what they do, they give us their time. They participate in panels. They're speakers. They give us information or articles for our, news publication or our blogs. And we share, we share knowledge. We share what our needs are and what our concerns are, and they share with us. It's a great relationship. So as far as what a relocation director does, and its real estate agents, we are the point of contact for both the relocation management company, for the transferee, and for our agents. So we're touching many, many folks. And we are the boots on the ground. We're the people who want to make it happen and have it be as stress-free as possible for the transferee, so they can get to the new location and get in the job and start working. And that's basically what these corporations are looking for. So what are some of the ways that relocation directors can make this a good experience? Is having great agents, an agent team that's trained specifically in working with relocation clients. We only allow very experienced agents who are certified, who attend quite a bit of training, so they know how to effectively work with these transferees. It's different. Working with a relocation buyer or seller is not the same as working with one of your local buyers or sellers. It's an emotionally charged time for these people. They need people who know how to hold their hand, walk them through the process, understand what the benefits are and what works best for these folks coming in. Our agents, they're on the front lines. They're the ones saying, I have agents who are still good friends with some of their relocation clients.
That's great.
They don't know who do I go to have my hair cut? What dentist do you go to? Oh, do you know a contractor? I need a plumber. We're it. Sometimes people don't know anybody but their real estate agent. And the other thing that relocation directors do that I think is so important is we reach out to our transferees before we select a real estate agent to work with that transferee and their family. We want to make sure that it is a good match, and that way they're happy. You want to find someone who may have mutual interests, or also have small children, or who are really familiar with a certain area and school systems, whose husband may be, or wife may be, working in the pharmaceutical. So there's an understanding there. So it just makes that transition for them so much easier. And I think in the end, if you have a good relocation director with a great team, it's going to be a positive experience.
So let's talk about RDC and the meetings that go on. There's one-on-one training to help a young person learn the steps. It's a belonging thing, I know, but you really take care of the younger people and bring them along to make sure they're learning the right things, so they could be of more service to their broker, of course, but also handle the incoming referrals or prepare the outgoing referrals to be more effective. Isn't that correct?
Yes. It's kind of a double question there. Yeah. So
we'll take one at a time. I'm sorry.
when I first started with RDC, I was newer, and there was a lot I needed to learn. And by attending RDC, by networking, by attending all the different educational seminars or webinars that are offered, and just becoming friends with people, other Relocation Director Council members who, it is the best experience in my career that I have is RDC. We help each other. Like Chuck said, it's across all brands. We respect each other, but in the end, we're all doing the same thing.
So we're looking at some meeting social things, and the guy in the red tie, that was taken around the turn of the century, I think.
Kathleen came up with that one.
But as you can see in the other picture, people are seated. This is, of course, a long time ago, pre-COVID, but close together. They're able to share ideas, and the people know each other.
Yeah, you know what? I just want to say that I remember my first meeting, and just to be at a table full of people who all do the same thing I do, and then for someone to say like, well, how do you handle this, or what do you do about that? I mean, even though there's so much great content and at the meeting and education, sometimes just that one-on-one and realizing, wow, I can reach out to these folks, I can ask questions. And as I said, you're often back at your real estate office, there isn't anyone to ask those questions of. And just to realize that someone is going through the same struggle or challenge that you are, and finding out how they handle it is invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the stress. This has been a crazy spring and summer for the real estate business. Chuck, how, in your view, how has that impacted day-to-day business?
Well, I think first of all, we're blessed among industries that the market has been strong in almost all markets, and so that relocation directors in general have remained employed and busy. I think I can speak specifically for Hawaii. One thing that we found during COVID was we're often, particularly, I think, it probably applies for relocation in general, you're often working with someone remote. So you may be showing them real estate with your iPhone, or sending them a PDF of photographs or information. And so actually that, again, was the perfect preparation for COVID, because suddenly we're actually dealing with people in our own market somewhat remotely. There was a story here where there was a property inspection. We had a transferee from California. And so the transferee sat in their car, the realtor sat in her car, and the home inspector was inside the home. This was at the height of COVID, inside the home with his iPhone. And so everyone was live there on site.
Amazing, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah, when the inspector was done, they all met outside in the yard with their masks on and discussed what had happened in the house. So I think really I think agents had some practice in advance for this, but also quite resilient in figuring out ways to help people, because of course they still had to relocate.
Yeah. So, Anne, the stress of dealing with people because prices keep going up and these crazy bidding wars earlier, that's really not continuing, is it?
Unfortunately, it is continuing,
Uh,
and it's really what the whole country is seeing right now. It's not any one market. And 3-4 years ago, those markets were San Francisco and New York City and Boston, but now it's everywhere. It's Idaho. It's many different markets where the inventory just isn't there, and it's really stressful. It's stressful for transferees because it's hard for them to compete. Because the person who can close the fastest and has cash money is the one who's going to win. And those relocation clients, they come in and they have mortgage contingencies. It's very difficult to position themselves in a winning place. We had one of our agents show 55 houses. Now, the other part about, yes, in this market where there's no inventory. And so they're having to go out further and further. Their area of interest has grown considerably for a number of reasons. One, because they're going to work from home part of the time still, most of them, and in what's available. So it was finally on the 9th offer that they had it accepted. And that's what we're seeing. And it makes it very uncomfortable for both the agent and for the transferee. It's really hard. It's a hard time, but they're still buying houses. People are still coming. Some of the advantage, again, we're seeing shift is that people are choosing to move further out of the city because they know their commute time is going to be 2 days a week instead of 3 days a week. So it's difficult.
So when I was growing up in the early days, I'm sorry to interrupt, but because I grew up in Boston, and Southern New Hampshire was always, well, it's only 40 minutes away from downtown Boston, if that. But people were always going over the border because of a sense of freedom and country and trees and lower taxes. But is that still going on there?
Well, that's a little tricky. So you say lower taxes in New Hampshire because they don't have sales tax, they don't have income tax, but they sure have property taxes. So you've got to make up for it somewhere. You need to take a look at that. But overall, as far as crossing over to Southern New Hampshire, there's a lot of direct routes to get you into Boston or Cambridge or outside, and also the property prices. You're going to get more for your dollar. So we do see people moving over that border a little bit more. My understanding is Manchester, New Hampshire is one of the top cities now as far as influx of people going in, lack of rentals, lack of temporary housing. It's who would have thought?
I know. God, I remember Southwest flew in there and I could get a flight to go to Boston. I'd go to Manchester. Wow. I never. So, but now Sunapee, like even Mount Sunapee is probably I used to go skiing there when I was a kid. And so, and that was like a 90-minute drive from Boston.
Right. And that's something else I think we've seen in the market. So some of those baby boomers were getting ready to retire, and they kind of pushed their plans up a little. They sold the primary home. I've only got 5 years left or 3 years or whatever they say. So they've moved in. They bought the place in Sunapee. And so just like you said, they're there 3 days a week or whatever, or can work remotely. So that's kind of changed things as well.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a timely announcement.
Hi, I'm Sergei Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we are researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Interesting. So how do you deal with people, Anne, who have so much stress because they're in a corporate situation and the value of these houses that they're interested in keep going up, and yet the company doesn't want to give them any more money. So it's causing all these problems. In some markets, people are just renting.
Yes, and that's what we're seeing. Some are renting, some are choosing to keep the homes they're coming from, actually. I've started to see an increase in that where they're deciding to keep their home, maybe rent it out and just in rent. They're afraid, they don't want, typically transferees, 3 to 5 years, and then they're being moved again. And so what's going to happen in 5 years as far as a value goes? I think in the greater Boston area, the values will hold, but not in every area of the country. So we can only educate them and consult them and say, this is what's happening in this market. If you want to win this bid, this offer, get this house, these are the things that you will have to do. Waive inspection, waive mortgage contingency, pay cash, and that's that's what we can tell them to do. Some are having to reach into retirement accounts, I believe, outside of, the sale of their home. So we just have to walk them through it. It's hard on the agents too, I have to tell you, because the agents really care about their clients, and it's tougher for them as well.
You know what, I think there's definitely a segment. I mean, everything Ann said applies everywhere, I think, but there's also a segment of transferee, perhaps the Department of Defense or military or the FBI, for example, that their career, they relocate every 3 years for a living. It's part of, and so they come and they just sort of understand exactly what's happening. And I mean, it's probably not the first such market they've had to relocate in. And so that can be really helpful too, when you have someone, a seasoned transferee, sort of knows the groundwork, and that makes for a much better experience. Obviously, they're not quite as stressed.
Right.
So if I may ask you about the destination itself as a geographic magnet, say Boston, Honolulu, of course, but also like Charlotte and Raleigh, my God, they're just exploding. And Nashville, Texas
Florida.
has been, Florida. Phoenix is just out of sight. And it's not always from people leaving LA, but a lot. But a lot of people are moving south into Phoenix area from the Midwest, for sure. And it's exploding as a semiconductor manufacturing hub, Greater Phoenix. So that's a really good thing for Buy American, made in America. So the relocation business is going through a lot of changes, and the backbone of RDC is education, and of course the networking, right, Chuck?
Yes. I think Ann's going to talk a little bit about a road show. We do travel to different relocation management companies and talk about the market and the value of a relocation director. And then, as I mentioned, in 2015, we created a global destination specialist certification program for the international transferee. And so there's just some additional settling in services and other requirements, and also potential business opportunities for the relocation director who's in a market that has international flow.
Right, that's like affinity type service.
It can be, yes. And then sometimes it's just, how do I relocate a pet from a foreign country? What do I do with my car? How do I get a Social Security card in this busy city in this country I've never lived in? That kind of assistance is really important.
Good point. Ann, do you want to take it from here?
About the
about the road show.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yes, the road show. So once upon a time, it was called the road show because we would take this wonderful presentation that shared with RMCs and other regional relocation groups, and at the conference, at the WERC conference, a national real estate update. So we would include different trends and topics, inventory, sales information, what's happening in the economy across the country, how our market's performing, how is that affecting mobility. And we took it to a lot of RMCs. Today it's virtual. So we reach out to different RMCs. We schedule a Zoom, a virtual. Their folks are invited to participate, and 2 board members present the trends and topics. I think it helps a lot of these folks that are sitting in those offices have a better understanding of, overall what's going on in the market, what's going on in the world. Are they paying attention to unemployment and what's driving, certain pricing in a city, so that they too can speak more knowledgeably with their transferees. So it's a win-win. And of course, we share and tell them all how wonderful RDC is, and what value we bring to them.
Interesting, isn't it? So Paul, producer Paul, if we could take a look at the slideshow again, and let's start from the top and just go through as we begin to sum up. and go forward. Thank you. So here we are again. You see relocationdirectorscouncil.org. Go and check it out. And the next. And here's the group again. So Chuck, look at all the education diversification there. That's really amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it really is a highly professional group. We do require certain education, and then folks just take it from there. I think it's also an important, it's an important part of WERC also is to really push education, and so we work with them hand in hand in that regard.
Great. Okay, next. Okay, now here, Anne, if you want to review this again.
Yes, of course. So if an individual would care to be a member of the Relocation Director Council, they must have been a director in their position for 2 out of the last 4 years, hold their CRP, SCRP, GMS, SGMS designation, and as well as broker owners who wish to be part of the organization. They also have to be in that same position as a salaried person to run the relocation divisions. If you want more information about being a member, just reach out to us and we will have our committee reach out to you and walk you through the process.
Great. Okay, next slide. And here we are, the board. Now, Chuck, the board changes every year?
It does. So there's a 10-person board, and the board at the director level is a 2-year commitment. And then we have an executive director is actually a 6-year commitment all told. So you would have 2 years as a director and then another 3 to 4 years on the executive council. I'm sorry, executive committee. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Good. Thank you for the clarification. So, Anne, a lot of the people we're looking at are women. It's not a woman's business, but there's a lot of women involved.
Yes, it is. Well, I feel that these are real estate, and what we do is kind of a caretaker role. So people who have changed careers, even real estate agents, were once teachers or nurses, or, along those lines. And I think that's partially what we see. But we do have some men. The board right now has 2, and there's been many times where there have been no men serving on the board. Is that correct, Teresa?
That is correct.
So you look around and you see very few, but it's good to have them. It's good to have another perspective to things, and we welcome men and women alike. So
I think it's a reflection of the real estate industry in general, though. There are some, just so many strong female leaders in the real estate industry in general.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So I want to ask our dear friend Teresa Howe about the suppliers' voices matter more than ever. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And I think when COVID hit, all the real estate brokers and their relocation departments just quietly started kicking into action. What do we do? There was no, while everybody might have been paralyzed for a very short amount of time, they kicked into action and just quietly figured things out. They figured out how to do showings remotely. They figured out how to do closings if they didn't have remote closings. They just figured it out, And I think what some of the corporations and RMCs miss sometimes is that very thing, that the brokers just figure it out and the relocation directors just figure it out. And they don't have to worry about it because they can really count on the relocation directors to make sure that things are happening the way they should. And I think, right now you hear a lot of, when I hear all these webinars and things from various sources, they're talking a lot to corporate housing and to the corporations about how they're having to change their policies and all these things. But again, the real, and you said it earlier, if the family can't find a home to live in where they go, nobody's happy. And so, I think again, it's people have this quiet confidence in what happens on the real estate side, and it's because of the relocation directors. It's because they know that the relocation directors are going to make it happen, and they're going to make sure that no matter how hard it is, they're going to help these people find housing. They're not going to be stuck in corporate housing for the rest of their lives, and that means coming up with creative solutions. I've heard of realtors, once the family identifies a neighborhood, knocking on doors to see if anybody wants to sell their house. One of my realtor friends up in LA had 400 people through his open house the other day.
Oh my God.
And that's during COVID. That's not great to have 400 people, but they had them lined up down the street and they marched them through. And so I think, the realtors and the directors together just figured out, and everyone kind of has this quiet confidence in them. And that's, something to really be proud of as a group. And I think, Chuck said it earlier, being a relocation director would be a really lonely job. And have an RDC to where, whether you're talking to somebody that's a small broker or a big broker, I used to get, information from the smallest of brokers. I would learn something from them. Just because I worked for a big broker, that didn't matter. So, in this situation, size does not matter. And it's important that they just share, and that's the value that they bring. And that's why the supplier voices are so important now, is that, it's like it's like spokes on a wheel. Everybody has to work together to make sure it all ends well for the transferee and the corporation, for sure.
So you and I have known each other a long time, and I remember when you were a Relo director in LA, West LA in particular, you were one of the first to recognize the value of affinity services, or to enlarge the scope of the relocation director to be revenue, not only an adjunct caretaker, and the not duty to care, but the beauty of giving care makes for the relationships and the growth of the brokerage business. And you were one of the original ones at that time that I remember who saw the value of that.
I still really, really believe in that, and that we can't always just sit back and wait for the business to come to us. We have to create our own business. And that's why I'm a big believer in local corporate business, tapping into those small companies that need help locally, creating local affinity programs. I'm a big believer of taking control of your own destiny. And I think during COVID, when the RMC business really slowed down dramatically and even stopped internationally, those that had that business and were doing a lot of broker to broker referrals, their business ended up being the same for the year. RMC was down, but broker to broker was up because the agents were referring a lot of business because people were doing just what Ann talked about. They decided they wanted to make a change. They decided they wanted a bigger yard. They wanted to do whatever. So it was self-motivated moves. So I think, I think relocation directors and their staff are inherently, skilled at pivoting, and they get customer service. So they can really do a lot of different things besides just handle corporate referrals that are being given to them. They can create that business, and it's a great revenue source. And it really builds that local business that's so important, and has, really solidifies the market share of your broker, and helps, support the company in a little bit different way that's unencumbered, or encumbered in a way that you're giving some of the money back to the consumer, which I think can be a value for sure.
So Chuck, as a relocation director in Honolulu in Hawaii, so for people who don't live there now and they're selling a mainland house and moving over, so part of your relocation service is to advise on what sailboat to rent, or where the surfing lessons are cheaper than.
Absolutely.
Sure. As Ann said, it's almost like, I don't know if the term welcome wagon is used very often these days, but we really are a resource for anything that might come up. A babysitter, hairdresser, all of the above.
This is great.
And you're right. In our case, a a sailboat or surfing lessons. That's right, hula lessons.
That's it. That's it. And where to get the best Mai Tai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Important.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
better.
right.
Get the original at the Pink Hotel at Waikiki. Yeah. So thank you for being our special guest on Relocation TV, global TV talk shows, and welcome any questions. Thank you, Anne, for stepping in and your expertise and the personal approach that you talked about is the epitome of what RDC stands for, right, Teresa?
Absolutely, without question.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great. And thank you, producer Paul, for showing all these. Now, here we are on Pikes Peak. I'm not Pikes Peak, but Pikes Fish Market in Seattle. And you guys are really throwing fish, is that it?
It was a rubber fish.
Oh, rubber.
Probably best.
It was our RGC booth, so we try to take a theme from the city that we're in at the exhibit hall, and so that was it. It was so much fun. We just had so much fun doing that.
Right. Okay. And so here you see the different groups. Looks like an auction. And there's Fritz and some of the other people, Kathy Connolly. And these are just people who have been around a long time and welcoming newcomers, right, Chuck?
Yes.
Yeah, this is great. Oh, there you are in Boston, or what looks like Boston.
Yes. So again,
Cheers Bar.
The city of Boston. So the theme was cheers, and people just loved that too. So we have a lot of popularity, our booth, I have to say.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, this is one more time Global TV. Thanks for being on our show. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Ed. And thank you, Teresa, for your guidance.
Ed, thank you.
This is Ed in San Diego. That's Teresa in somewhere in Southern California. Chuck in Honolulu, and Ann in Winchester, a suburb of Cambridge and Boston.
Yes.
I know it well. Okay, thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.